My granddad died in 1961 at the age of 90, and he'd been very close to his brother, who was just a year or two younger than he was. And they spent a lot of time checking in with each other. They lived within 100 yards of each other. And one day after Granddad died, my uncle came over to my mom and dad's house, which was, I think, maybe the only time he'd ever done that, to visit. And the word was out in the family that he was so lonely he was talking to people, more people than he usually had. And it was a Sunday, and we were sitting there, and I got a chance to ask him a couple of questions. And so I said, Uncle Toon, how did you buy the horses that you accumulated to run your livery business with your father, and then the mail delivery business, Star Route, up in the whole area there, up the back of White Salmon, up to Trout Lake and so on? How did you accumulate those horses? Because I'd heard it was some big number, and I checked that out with a relative, and I had too big a one. But they had a huge barn there right in the middle of town and a lot of horses. And they'd made a lot of money hauling the people who were going to homestead back up into the back country, and then later hauling the building materials back there for them to build their houses. So I said, how did you accumulate those horses? And he says, well, we bought a lot of them Indians. And he says, and we also bought them from them Jew traders down there in Portland. I said, well, how did that work? And he says, my mother was raised in them Jew traditions. And that gave me an understanding and skills in negotiating with them Jew traders down there in Portland. I said, well, let's see. If your mother was raised in, quote, them Jew traditions, doesn't that make our family part Jewish? And he says, goddamn little. And ever since then, I've been searching for what the connection was there where his mother was raised in Jewish traditions, but he said that she wasn't Jewish. That puzzled me. So when I went over in 1990, about 10 years or something after the conversation I'd had with him, and I met two third cousins. We had a great grandfather in common, about this. And do we have some Jewish people in our family? And the answer I got was no, probably. But one of them told me about a cousin who had been so close with a Jewish business person that they negotiated, and he named his son a very Jewish name. But of course, that doesn't imply membership in the Jewish synagogue. But I don't know. The other cousin told me, well, when I was a meat inspector, we had to disqualify meat so it could be taken and smuggled to feed the people that were hiding out, not wanting to be taken away to factories or forced into the army by the Germans when the Germans were in control of the Netherlands from 1940 to 1945. And he said that I would condemn good meat so it could be smuggled into the underground and fed to people who were hiding out. But he said also, I learned from being a meat inspector, many of the meat wholesalers I was dealing with were Jewish. And if there was a question about whether a piece of meat might be tainted, and the wholesaler did not want his meat to be disqualified, he'd argue with me. And if I learned that if I wanted to hold my ground, I need to just take the dye and dump it on the meat, because once that was there, the meat was out of the supply chain. But he said, you've got to figure out what your values are and your beliefs are and your boundaries are, and be assertive about it when you're dealing with Jewish people. They're good people, but they'll crowd you. So that didn't get me any closer to the idea of where my Jewish ancestors were. And I haven't gotten there yet. I guess I should ask now, as I'm just thinking out loud here, I should ask a couple of my cousins that are in their 30s who might be interested in family heritage if they could find out something about this. I would love to find that I have some Jewish heritage, because I have such admiration for the intellectual reverence for learning and for the law and for enforcing principles. But I haven't gotten there yet. That's one of the things that's on my bucket list. Am I culturally an inheritor of the Jewish faith?